Picture a man standing in the dark. It's the middle of the night, secretly riding an animal through the charred, jagged ruins of a city that hasn't been safe in a century. He doesn't have an army. He doesn't have a magic wand. He has a hammer, a trowel, and a radical theology of the mundane. To understand the stakes of this ride, we have to look at the terrifying geography of the exile. Back in 586 BC, the Babylonian army breached Jerusalem. The temple of God was burned to the ground, and the surviving people of Judah were dragged into captivity. The city walls were violently torn down, leaving the settlement completely defenseless. That is exactly where this ancient story meets the present day. You might be standing in the ashes of a trauma you didn't ask for, or looking at the rubble of a collapsed career, a failed marriage, or an addiction. You are staring at the ruin, wondering how to even start putting it back together. Our midnight rider, Nehemiah, begins his story far away from the rubble. He serves as cupbearer in the winter capital of the Persian Empire. He holds a comfortable, highly secure position near the most powerful man in the world. But then, a devastating report arrives from his brother. The remnant in Jerusalem are in distress. The wall is still broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. He doesn't draft a strategic plan. He doesn't rush to leverage his political connections. He sits down. He weeps, he mourns for days, and he fasts. Months pass. He is serving wine, and the king notices his sadness, a highly dangerous offense in the ancient Persian court. In a terrifying split-second moment where his life is literally on the line, Nehemiah sends up a single breath, a silent arrow of prayer. He has cultivated a life so oriented toward God that prayer is as natural as breathing. He asks the king for permission to go back and rebuild his city. This shift in Nehemiah's life, from a secure courtier to an advocate for a ruined city, began long before he spoke to the king. It started with those days spent fasting and weeping over the news of the wreckage. He didn't rush to fix the problem until he had fully faced the damage. Restoration begins with an honest, heartbroken inventory of what has been lost. You have to grieve the ruin before you can build the wall. This brings us back to that midnight ride. When Nehemiah arrives in Jerusalem, he assesses the damage in the dark. He takes a ruthless, honest inventory of exactly what is broken. The workforce composition is entirely communal. Nehemiah doesn't hire professional builders or mercenaries. Instead, the task is split among ordinary citizens. You have priests, perfume makers, and goldsmiths laying stone. You even see daughters working alongside their fathers. The strategy relies on extreme localization. Everyone takes a section of the wall right in front of their own house. By organizing this way, he bypasses a logistical nightmare. Individuals address their own family's vulnerability. As these efforts connect, they forge a unified defense. You cannot rebuild an entire life all at once. True healing begins the moment you take personal responsibility for the gritty, mundane ruin sitting right on your own doorstep. The moment you pick up a tool to fix what is broken, opposition arises. The historical record tells us that men named Sanballat and Tobiah immediately started jeering at the workers, claiming that if a fox walked on their stone wall, it would collapse. That mockery is the exact voice of the enemy in your own life. The accuser always attacks the building process. He insists your recovery is fragile, and that the new boundaries you are trying to construct out of the ashes of your past will never hold. When mockers realize words aren't stopping the progress, they escalate to the threat of physical violence. They plot to attack the builders. But Nehemiah refuses to let the people drop their tools and hide in the temple. He arms them. He orders the builders to hold a mundane tool for building in one hand and a sword for fighting in the other. Permanent restoration is never a passive retreat. It is an active war zone. You must actively fight off the lies of the enemy with the truth of Scripture, all while executing the slow, unglamorous work of daily healing. You cannot drop the sword to build, and you cannot drop the trowel to fight. You need both. Despite the mockery and the threats, Nehemiah's wall was completed in exactly 52 days. This was an impossible timeline. Even the surrounding enemies had to acknowledge it was the work of God. While the speed of construction stunned their neighbors, the transformation of the people was more significant. Perfume makers, goldsmiths, and families looked at a mountain of useless rubble and believed it could be a city again. In the grand narrative of Scripture, the ultimate rebuilder of human nature is Jesus Christ. When he arrived, he didn't instantly snap his fingers and teleport us back into a perfect Eden. He entered the rubble. He became the ultimate restorer of the breach, paying an infinite price for our redemption. But he leaves the deep, complex groundwork for us to engage with, inviting us to participate in the slow, deliberate, brick-by-brick rebuilding of our character through the power of his Spirit. The God of the Bible is not afraid of your ruins. He specializes in them. Identify your broken gates, send up a silent prayer, pick up your trowel, take up your sword, and start building today.